I am Alyssa Bohr, and I will be sharing with you my Lest We Forget project. For this project, I had to select a controversial American figure and explore their life and historical legacy. I chose to take an in-depth look into the life and legacy of John D. Rockefeller. For my main source, I used the biography John D. Rockefeller, Anointed with Oil, written by Grant Siegel. This book was published by New York Oxford University Press in 2001. John D. Rockefeller's reputation is mired because while Rockefeller was a major philanthropist, the way in which he made his fortune and his stifling monopoly of the oil industry have made people question if he truly was a good person. John D. Rockefeller was born on July 8, 1839, in Richford, New York, to Bill and Eliza Rockefeller. He had 5 siblings, an older sister named Lucy, and 4 younger siblings, William Jr., Mary, and twins, Franklin and Francis. John was taught by his father at an early age not to trust anyone. In the biography, John D. Rockefeller, Anointed with Oil, on page 15, it quotes, "When John was a toddler, his father held out his arms to catch him, then let him fall to the floor. Never trust anyone completely, not even me," Bill said. Lessons like these shaped John into a keen and ruthless businessman. As a teenager, John Rockefeller dreamed of being the first Rockefeller to attend college. He quit high school 2 months before graduation and then spent 3 months at a commercial college. In August of 1855, at age 16, John started working as an office clerk for a Cleveland commission firm that bought, sold, and shipped grain, coal, and other commodities. John considered his entry into the business world to be so important that he would celebrate it for the rest of his life as Job Day. In 1859, Rockefeller and a man by the name of Maurice Clark established their own commission firm, which grew steadily. In 1863, Rockefeller finally entered the oil industry with his partners by investing in a Cleveland oil refinery. The company grew dramatically in the next 2 years, and Rockefeller and his partners had a falling out. In 1865, Rockefeller bid out his partners for the refinery for $72,500, which is roughly $619,575 today. In 1870, Rockefeller formed the Standard Oil Company of Ohio, along with his younger brother William and Henry Flagler. Together, these men, led by the cunning of Rockefeller, would create a horizontal monopoly in the oil industry. A horizontal monopoly is when a company is so dominant it stifles competition in one layer of an industry. An example of monopoly like this today would be the acquisition of Instagram by Facebook. Facebook purchased Instagram, which was another company in the social media industry. By doing this, Facebook was able to eliminate competition and reach new audiences. Rockefeller created his monopoly by either buying out his rivals or by offering them stock in his company, as well as powerful positions. In the biography John D. Rockefeller, Anointed with Oil, on page 44, it mentions that John Rockefeller's goal was to refine all of the world's oil. By the end of the 1870s, Rockefeller was well on his way to this goal as Standard Oil refined 90 to 95% of the United States oil. Rockefeller's power continued to grow in the 1870s, and he was able to create one of the first vertical monopolies. A vertical monopoly is when one company handles layers of the same industry. Rockefeller did this by building his own pipelines and buying tank cars to move the oil himself. An example of vertical monopoly today would be Apple, as it controls the manufacturing and distribution of its products as well as it creates its own software. John D. Rockefeller, like any man, had several shortcomings. Rockefeller and Standard Oil were notorious for spies who would follow rivals' sales calls and take notes on them. Standard Oil was also known for stealing customers from other refineries. Rockefeller felt entitled to what he wanted and often blamed victims for their problems. He considered competition as war, saying, "All is fair." Even though Rockefeller was a ruthless businessman, he was also one of the most generous philanthropists of all time, and he eventually gave most of his money away. Rockefeller donated more than $500 million to various educational, religious, and scientific causes through the Rockefeller Foundation, which he established in 1913. Rockefeller also helped found the University of Chicago. On page 49 of John D. Rockefeller, Anointed with Oil, Rockefeller is quoted, "We must remember we are refining oil for the poor man, and he must have it cheap and good." Personal beliefs such as this show that Rockefeller was not a cruel man, but instead, he was a man who wanted to help others any way he could. John D. Rockefeller died at the age of 97 on May 23, 1937. As found in the book John D. Rockefeller, Anointed with Oil, on page 105, throughout his entire life, Rockefeller had given a total of $530 million to charities, including $446 million to those he founded himself. I believe that Americans should remember John D. Rockefeller as a cunning businessman who earned his wealth by monopolizing the oil industry. We should also remember that he was a major philanthropist who strived to help improve the lives of others. Like any other man, Rockefeller had his flaws. While he often lied in order to make money, he was not greedy and gave most of the money away to people who needed it. I will conclude my presentation with a quote from David Freeman Hawke, found on page 114 of John D. Rockefeller, Anointed with Oil, which I believe captures the legacy of Rockefeller perfectly. Rockefeller cheated and lied his way to a great fortune, but was still the most upright of all American industrialists.